Okay, friends, so we're going to go ahead and begin, and I'm going to invite the chime to sing. And I just want to invite everybody as we're arriving to allow an inward gaze and really take stock of the four foundations of mindfulness. Just kind of tap into those four cornerstones and just assess, how is my body doing today? What's my mood? What are my emotions? What have I been thinking about this morning? What am I thinking about future tripping maybe for the afternoon? What are the stories connected to those thoughts? And just notice, try to bring a friendly neutrality to your exploration. And arrive to this beautiful Sangha, arrive to the recognition that we're going to share in the Dharma today, arrive to the Buddha within each of us. We all have a Buddha nature. We all have the capacity to awaken to the causes and conditions of not only our suffering, but our contentment, our ease, our peace, the harmony within us. And if you feel in your body that the body would best be served lying down in rest, please allow that to happen. If the body is struggling to be still, turn off your camera if you're online and move. Allow this meditation to simply exist in the background of your consciousness and invite that to be perfect. One of the things that I love about meditation is its limitless quality, because I can frame everything in my life, everything that I'm doing moment to moment to moment in present time awareness, which is all meditation is. What is happening in this moment? What is happening in this moment? And then arriving to a space where I can just put it all down and breathe. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, and for anybody who has been away for a little while, I just want to bring you up on the same playing field as everyone else. And that is, for this month, the theme is trust and betrayal. And it's an enormous theme. And we have decided to take this theme and break it down into weekly explorations. And so this week's theme is exploring honesty and omission. And on Tuesday, I brought forward the introductory concepts that I'd like to share with you today at a very basic level. The main message that I want you to have, however, is the challenge to the mind, the Western mind, that is constantly putting things into either or categories. Either I'm honest, or I'm somehow engaging some kind of deceit, like omission. And that is true. It's not like duality and either or thinking is false. It's true. It happens. But there's more to the story, and that's why what's true is never the whole truth. So even if I have the capacity to be honest and I have the capacity to omit things, How does that manifest in my life? And more importantly, how is the virtue of honesty with the non-virtuous, potentially non-virtuous action of omission, how do they connect? How do they work together? That's what we're going to explore today. What I brought forward on Tuesday was the notion that with a meditation practice, with an analytical practice, and with a vipassana practice, a deep looking practice, we can see that within the so-called virtue of honesty, there are both positive and negative aspects. And moving from one to the other, allowing ourselves to see how these positive and negative aspects within honesty exist, going back and forth, creates neutrality. Within omission, there are positive, negative, neutral qualities. What are they? When we look at honesty, by the way, full disclosure here, this is not a comprehensive study, and I am by no means an expert. I am simply sharing with you what is alive for me as I think about these concepts. When I think about honesty, and when I think about the prevailing qualities that define honesty for me, a positive aspect of being honest for me is self-confidence. A negative aspect of honesty for me is expressed in arrogance. When I am self-confident and I have to be honest with someone, I tend to be discerning. I tend to practice many qualities of wise speech. I tend to be enormously patient and spacious. I'm very open to being surprised, usually, and all of that is connected to being confident. If, however, I'm in an arrogant state of mind, my honesty is like stiff leather. It's a little bit tough. So I have this notion in my mind that, well, I'm just going to tell it to you straight. And yeah, it could be kind of edgy, but I'm telling it to you this way because I've convinced myself that I know what's best. Tough love, being brutally honest, we have that adage. Being super direct. And again, even in that posture, there are positive and negative qualities within that. So you can appreciate as we start to look deeply at these qualities, there's so many layers. It's complex. And the more we practice, the more we look deeply, the more we activate that neutrality. Omission. Omission is connected to our capacity to not be forthcoming, to choose to not be forthcoming. Maybe we kind of dance around the truth a little bit, being honest. Maybe we skirt the edges of it and we leave out some of the details. There are good reasons for this, and there are negative reasons for this. The good reasons are connected to the process of discernment. This is a positive quality of being omitting in our speech. And this is when we are able to discern, who am I talking to? And if I were to be really honest with this person, is it actually fair and of benefit? So, for example, in one of the writings I shared last week, I shared a story that I had read about a guy who attended a play with a friend of his. And he was sitting in the play in the audience just suffering because it was a super cringy B-rated B-rated actors play, and he was just like, ugh, this is so uncomfortable. When is this going to end? So it ends, and he goes backstage and he sees his friend and he's like, yikes, how am I going to say I didn't like this? This was cringy for me. When he sees her coming toward him, and she is elated, she's on cloud nine, she's just had the time of her life. And she comes right at him and says, "What did you think?" And he, in that moment, had to discern, if I told her I didn't like this play, what benefit would it have been to her in this moment? That is discernment. He was preserving her feelings. And he knew that when the elation, when the adrenaline wore down, they would get together and he would be able to have a more honest critique to offer her. But in this moment, he wasn't going to be purely honest. So he skirted the question. The negative quality to omission is usually motivated by scarcity. And scarcity arises in us because of fear. Scarcity in omission is related to arrogance and honesty. Those two negative qualities go side by side. So, for example, if you are someone who has been on the receiving end of someone's brutal honesty, to come forward with honesty, admission, might not be safe. You might be vulnerable. It might hurt. It might be fearful. You might not want to do it. So you omit. And the quality of this, the reason why we look at this is because these two negatives working together can just loop. And we get into a cyclical pattern of suffering. Whereas if we can practice just a little bit of honesty with someone we trust, someone that we can build a little bit of confidence with and be a little bit vulnerable with and share some honesty and have a positive experience, that builds our capacity to be discerning. It also builds our capacity to look at our fear whenever we're tempted to be in the posture of omission. So the discernment practice within honesty, it really begins with to whom you are being honest. And let me say this. We are not always the best person to be honest with, ourselves, that is, because we have a history and a habit energy of being pretty cruel. And so maybe the place to start is with a Kalyana Mitra, a wise friend, somebody who we trust to take a neutral posture and practice honesty with them, practice discernment with them, practice even omission with them. And as we build our confidence, we can then become the Kalyana Mitra to ourselves. But it takes time, takes practice, takes looking at these attributes and these qualities. When you are able to be honest, look at how confidence is arising in you. When you are able to be honest, look at how arrogance arises in you. When you are able to be honest with someone, notice there may be another quality that actually better defines you. What is it? Trust your Buddha nature. Trust your wisdom. Trust your bodhicitta. That soft heart, open heart. When you are in a posture of omission, what are the conditions surrounding it? Because you could be actually engaging discernment. You could be highly aware of the situation and you are actually offering a kindness. You may be in the presence of someone who isn't safe, who doesn't deserve your vulnerability. They can't handle it. They don't have the capacity for it. And if you were to be too revealing, you could get hurt. That is enormously wise on your part. Notice, however, if you are in that omission practice and you're scared, you're afraid to be judged, shamed. Maybe in that posture you're telling a story based on an old experience. And maybe you can turn inward and find that inner confidence. And maybe something new will surprise you. At the end of the day, friends, we endeavor to become more honest about ourselves and with one another for the very simple yet profound reason that it brings less harm into a suffering world. Your practice is radical. Your practice of this is an extraordinary act of loving kindness and compassion. Your practice to explore honesty and omission takes great courage. Bravo you. So we'll end our practice today with a dedication of merit. And I'd like to bring forward one of my favorite lines from a poem by John O'Donohue, and it's simply awaken to the mystery of being here. Awaken to the complexity of you. And just like you, Can you see the complexity of others? May we all begin to deepen our practice of mutuality, where when we become more loving toward ourselves, we become more loving to others. And when we become more loving to others, we become more loving to ourselves. There's this absolute reciprocity and mutuality that goes on. And by extension, that ripples out into the world, and it transforms and heals. This is the practice. This is your practice. May you find ease and safety there, peace and joy. May you have a moment today followed by another of freedom. Thank you so much for your practice, friends. We'll see you next time. Namaste.